Boom, baby. There we go. A little Gino Vannelli. Yes. Going back a while. So, how is everybody? I see the delay is working quite well. So we know all is good. And it is Monday all around planet Earth, except on the other side of the Earth where it's, I think, Tuesday. How does flat earthers explain that? Anyway, we move right on along. So, what's up? I hope y'all had a great Saturday and Sunday. Trust that you're enjoying the ride, speaking favor over all of our lives, and may there be nothing missing, nothing broken. Hey, Nina, what's up? Big Busto to everybody, and we can't forget the Sky Pilot. Give him a big hug. I'm going to tell you what, today I'm really going to get right into it because I am excited about this. These theses that I print off, they're fabulous. They're just fabulous. And if you're like I am, I love reading white papers and particular doctorate for theses because they're formatted correctly, they're referenced, and you can pretty well either, agree or disagree with the research, but one thing you have to agree, the research is there. So, hey, Martin, Heidi, how is everybody? Let's see, Lost in Space, Kent Cook, Grandpa Brian, good to see you. I thought I saw Lois in here earlier. Caesar Q, how you doing? There she is, Cajun Queen. How you doing, my love? Good to see you. MK, good to see you. Kent, what's up? 420 time, you got it. What else is happening? Big Al, got to see you. I know I have some text from you. I have to be checking in. I just got so wrapped up into reading this that, man, I just put the phone away. I did. I put it where I couldn't hear it, couldn't see it, and just delved into it. So, Hopkins, what's up? Robin, good to see you. Danielle, what's happening? The Unknown, I've been there. 09 Klaatu, how you doing, dear? David Castle, much love to you. Boy, there's some new people in here. Indigo Alien, what's up? Fari, good to see you. Let's see what else is happening. Beloved Abstract, what's up? Hey, Jenny, sending you much love, hon. Gonna get you back on. We gotta have some discussions. Dragon Soul Fox, what's up? Lost in Space, all right. So, let's just get right into it. Tomorrow, a second chance. We may even get further into this. Later in this week, I'm going to do a session. The thing I'm seeing on a lot of channels is that the fear porn is really ratcheting up. Everywhere I see, it's all doomsday, all gloom, all kiss your ass goodbye kind of stuff. And, yeah, you can tell where people are at. Just look by how many there. So we're going to get into a subject that absolutely fascinates me. My wife and I had so many interesting discussions on this topic because of this thesis that I was reading. And it was really interesting because, when a couple who are already joined and they begin to explore new paths, particularly this area of when do our memories actually start? That is basically the thesis, is what it's predicated on. When do these memories start? And is our science so backwards that it could be equated to rubbing sticks and stones together? I'm talking our medical science. I'm talking our psychological science. Humans do not know who or what they are. Our science is ass backwards. We're just now beginning to get out of the darkest age of mankind. And our science is still polluted by the antics of those coming out of the dark ages. It still saturates it. And in this subject, what I found great, the author on this, she did a fabulous job, and I just had her name here because I want to, and of course, doesn't it happen that way? Well, we'll look at her name for sure. She did a great job on this. As he says, looking for the notes. So let's get right into it, because I think you're going to find this one of the most interesting studies that we have done here. This is chapter 3, starts with the states of consciousness of fetus, newborns, and young children. Folks, get ready. Strap in your 5-point seatbelt, because this one is, I'll guarantee you, it's going to open for many people your earliest, get this, fetus memories. Yeah. Chapter 2 presents was an overview of the modern birth and some of the unmet needs and suffering of newborns. It's amazing. We give birth as a species. That's what we do. But we are so freaking ignorant about what we're actually dealing with, what we call life. We have anyway, you'll see. And introduces these as a consequence of the mechanistic paradigm that promotes materialism and low self-concepts. If there's one thing that I have seen that all of our species suffers from, is low self-esteem and low self-concepts. It plagues our species. Homo sapiens are the worst. They're neurotic because of this. Anyway, she goes on to say that this chapter explores some of the amazing aspects of children that are documented by research, self-reports, and case studies that reveal what appear as unusual states of consciousness easily assessed in early childhood, but generally disregarded. Although authors use a variety of terms for states of consciousness, such as non-ordinary, paranormal, trance, hypnagogic, extrasensory, spiritual, these refers to states of expansive awareness beyond what is usually acceptable in normal consensus reality, but may be normal and natural and limited only through the process of conditioning. Young children, not well conditioned by modern culture, express aspects of their spiritual nature and awareness of the unseen in many different ways. As claimed earlier, they are highly receptive and may participate in many fields of consciousness and their contents. Fetuses and infants appear to have extrasensory communication with their mothers. This is Dr. Chamberlain, 1998, in his study. Along with Ehrenwald, Varney, and Kelly, and Wambach. You'll get to know these folks as we continue on. Young children may speak spontaneously of pre-birth and birth experiences and of past lives. And in addition, they may perceive entities otherwise invisible within the consensus of reality. Armstrong and Bowman. Because fetuses and newborns have underdeveloped brains, and because of the general belief among scientists that memory creation and retention requires a fully developed brain, what appear to be fetal and newborn memories are often ignored or dismissed, the biggest mistake that we have made. Although some scientists present evidence that memories and perceptions are not necessarily located within the brain. What? Let's leave that again. Present evidence that memories and perceptions are not necessarily located in the brain. There have been no conclusive explanations thus far for the location of memories. Are y'all getting this? Your freaking memories, mine, are not up here. You see what happens when you get comfortable? Adults and cultures as a whole often give young children cues, consciously and unconsciously, imitating that some of their unusual thoughts and experiences may be fantasy-based or are otherwise unacceptable, causing children to repress and limit their perceptions. The worldview of the child that includes magical thinking has generally been considered invalid within the Cartesian and Newtonian paradigm. Magical thinking refers to an organic world view permeated with meanings and deep living interconnections. In contrast, much of modern science has supported a worldview permeated with nothing but meaningless isolation. And this is one of the clues right here. Each and every one of us are in essence in solitary confinement. It's weird, I know, but that's what this journey does to you as you go through it. Many of us fought before we got here. Athena Drews addresses the problem of investigating telepathy with young children. Drews notes that adults and adolescents are commonly used in psi phenomenon testing, but children often seem to be overlooked as a viable research population. Drews claims the following as reasons researchers are uncomfortable working with children: lack of understanding of developmental issues in order to use and create the best types of testing protocols, ethical issues related to conducting research with children, the possibility of fraud emerging from a child's desire to seek attention and to continue receiving it, and the desire to please adults. I think we could say safely you could put adults in there replacing child. Anyway, these protocols refer to guidelines imposed by the American Psychological Association and the American Association of the Advancement of Science. This chapter begins with self-reports from participants in Helen Wambach's 1970s research that used hypnosis to guide clients to memories of a time prior to conception, to the gestation period, and to the actual birth experience. Yeah. Y'all getting this? Working as a therapist, David Chamberlain in 1998 heard similar comments as those reported by Wambach. Chamberlain used trance states in therapy and discovered pre-birth, birth, and reincarnational memories, and an unexpected maturity contrary to the belief that a newborn is unable to think and feel because of an underdeveloped brain. Yeah. Stanislav Grof in 1992's research suggested that each of us has the capacity to remember our life as a fetus and our experience of the birthing process. It does happen. It's there. You have just been taught and to believe that you cannot remember. You can and you should. Before you die in this incarnation, learn to remember what it was like coming in, and your death will be a celebration, baby. Yeah. Past life and birth, suggest that each of us has the capacity to remember our life as a fetus and experiencing the birthing process. Past life and birth memories may emerge spontaneously as soon as a child begins to speak. Material from Carol Bowman's 1998 study, Extensive Collection of Children's Reincarnational Memories, is included. Ian Stevenson, and I've done work on him here, who wrote volumes on multicultural case studies of children's past life memories, reported on the precocious nature of many of these very young children. Bruce Lipton, 2005 study, suggested that an embryo, are you ready for this? Listen, folks, listen. Stop what you're doing in the chat. Get this, suggest that an embryo may be downloading a self from another lifetime. This is deep, folks. This is deep. If you're chatting, you should definitely come back and listen because there's knowledge here. Thomas Armstrong, in his study in 1998, explores young children's visions, intuitions, ecstasies, encounters with the supernatural, confrontations with the infinite, and interactions with other levels of existence. Armstrong's insights weave together many different instances of non-ordinary experience in childhood. Armstrong's includes child psychology, comparative religion, mythology, metaphysics, anthropology, literature, and psychology. Woo. Tobin Hart in 2003, and then subsequent Robert Cole's 1990 studies offer anecdotal evidence of children's spiritual experiences. They and others have noted the repression of non-ordinary experiences due to parental or cultural denial and misunderstandings. You see, we're wiped coming in here because we instituted it. We wipe our children. And then we wipe ourselves, and yeah, it gets really, really weird. A great deal of material has been researched for this study, but only a small portion has been chosen based upon the direct relevance and potential effectiveness to make the point that young children are transforming consciousness in each moment. Wow. Prenatal and birth memories. Helen Wambach, 1979, psychologist and early researcher in the field of reincarnation, used group hypnosis to produce trance states that allowed her to investigate the birth memories of her participants. Wambach initially was a skeptic. She began her studies in the late 1960s when there was little research or literature available beyond the reports of reincarnation from various Eastern traditions and from the writings of Edgar Cayce, Rudolf Steiner, and in the West. You can see we're so regressed in the West. Oh, that kind of rhymed all the time. Wambach learned that subjects on biofeedback monitors whose brainwave cycle registered between 0 and 4 cycles per second had little or no recall when awakened. Questioned, while still in that state, they often reported mystical insights. Preferring that her participants remain awake for sufficient recall, she taught them how to bring their brainwave electrical potential to 5 cycles per second. We're going to do this here. We're actually going to do this as a group, producing theta waves. The theta state from 4 to 8 cycles per second is associated with memory integration, hypnotic trances, hypnotic imagery, daydreaming, and an uncensored free flow of ideas from the unconscious. Lawrence Kuby explains, free associations seem to flow with extraordinary freedom and vividness, gravitating spontaneously to early scenes and experiences with intense effects, yet without multiple distortions that occur in the dream process. In other words, you are there. You're reliving it. This theta state has the advantage of freeing up memories without distortion. In Wambach's research, the results were hypnotic trances that included the ability to remember pre-birth and birth experiences. Wambach made the interesting discovery that 40% of her subjects reported seeing colors drifting in front of their eyes as they approached 5 cycles per second. Dr. Wambach explains, there didn't seem to be any other consistent color. Each subject seemed to see a slightly different one, but the phenomenon of drifting fields of color was to recur again and again. Often, lights and colors are associated with the hypnotic state while falling asleep. Malcolm Goldwyn reports that this hypnotic state may be accompanied by a vivid, almost psychedelic images. Wambach believed that rapid responses to her questions emerged directly from the right brain hemisphere or from the subconscious mind. When there is hesitation, the conscious mind is looking for the right answers, speculating and being rational. Therefore, she gave her subjects very little time to respond. What follows are documented responses from her workshops in which entire groups were induced into mild hypnotic trances. Wambach focused on the feeling. All right, you getting this? Those of you who are going to be listening, and those of you who are listening, go back. Listen to it again. Focus on the feeling of being born into this lifetime. Now, that alone, I practice this. This is it's strange because much like I had Barbara, and I'm trying to remember, forgive me, her last name, of the Akashic record. This is very interesting because this is what I was sensing. Accessing to a record that has always been there. I am the one that locked the door. I am the one that has held the key, but hid the key. Weird, I know. She asked her groups to direct their attention to the developing fetus who will be you. Then Wambach asked, are you experiencing inside the fetus? Outside the fetus? Are you in or are you out? When does your consciousness fully join that fetus? Can you see that fetus? Close your eyes. Remember, it's you. She was careful not to prejudice her participants with suggestions that life begins at conception because she had already learned from therapy with individuals in hypnosis that many felt they moved in and out of the fetus throughout the gestation period. Immediately after her questions, the participants filled out data sheets. Wambach notes, one woman told me as I handed her the data sheet, oh, I felt such compassion for that baby who was me. I felt such sadness to leave the place where I was to come back into physical life. It seems so hard to be confined in a little body and to lose the lightness and the love I had known in the between life state. The subject continues. Oh, I feel cheerful enough. It's just that I realize that birth is not a joyous occasion. The two deaths that I had in two past lives tonight were very pleasant experiences. It's getting born that seems the tragedy. In her workshops, Wambach guided her subjects through 3 death experiences before their births into their current lifetime. If they wished, the subjects could choose not to participate in remembering the death experience. After the workshop, many people reported that they had lost their fear of death. Wow. Although Wambach was clear that she made no claims that these regressions were therapeutic, 90% of the participants claimed that death is actually pleasant. I've been telling you this. Don't fear the darkness. Don't fear your death. It's orgasmic, baby. The pain you came in, I did a whole thing on the birthright, that when you came in, that is bad as it will ever get for you. No matter what your life becomes, no matter joyous, tragic, or whatever, you will never experience a worse part of reality than in that birthing. Your death is a release. Wambach discovered that of 750 subjects, 81% reluctantly chose to be born. Returning felt like a duty. 26% of the subjects looked forward to coming into this lifetime and expected to achieve something, particularly while here. 19% reported that they were unaware of choosing to be born, or that no clear answers came to them. I can see that. 41% were aware of some sort of advisors or counselors, but could not identify them. Of those who claimed that they had been counseled, 59% had more than one counselor. And of these, 10% were counseled by persons in their present lifetime. Whoa. Only 0.1% reported that they were counseled by God or some other deity. The following question was the one of the greatest interest to most of the Wambach subjects. What is your purpose for coming into this, your current lifetime? The following is one subject's response. I chose to be born. Yes, someone did help me choose, and it seemed to be some voice that I trusted greatly. It was kind, helpful, and wise. In fact, very wise. My feelings about the prospect of being born were very positive. When you asked the purpose for this lifetime, it flashed out that I was to broaden people's mind. Because many of her subjects felt that coming into this lifetime was ultimately met with reluctance, Wambach wondered whether that reluctance was caused by the particular period in history, the late 20th century, and if that indicated a particularly difficult time. Just over half the participants chose the 20th century as a time of great potential for spiritual growth. Boom, baby. That's why you and I are here. We knew that this time was. We waited probably eons, many reincarnations waiting for this time. Yeah. While 34% were more specific in their reasons for choosing. The following claim was made. Yes, I chose the 20th century because it is the time of earth changes and the rising of levels of consciousness. A similar response follows. I chose the last half of the 20th century to be alive because more advanced spirits are being born, and we are closer to obtaining world peace and a sense of the total self of mankind. Chew on that one for a little bit. Yeah. You know, maybe that's where we are heading to, is the eventuality of world peace. Because what we're going through now will teach us the sense of self. Many people have lost that. Concerning purpose, one subject stated, I had the feeling that before birth, it was discussed with me what the purpose was. But when I was launched, so to speak, with my unknown companions helping me, I was not allowed to know anything about having friends from past lives or the purpose of this life. Now, that really sucks. You think about that. A sovereign spirit being confined to this. Furthermore, being white, having a mission and a purpose, but never fully visioning it, living it, but never fully understanding it until you reach an age. And the age is not chronological. It appears that while we're in this realm, we are ageless beings, but we love this realm of where we can come back and be a fetus, a child, in your prime, and dying an old person. We love it. We gain so much from it. The study included practicing Catholics and other Christians who considered abortion to be murder. But Wambach presumed that as a group, many of her subjects were pro-abortion. According to Wambach, 750 subjects agreed on the following key point. Listen to this, folks. This one really, I had to think on this one. They felt that the fetus was not truly a part of their consciousness. They existed fully conscious as an entity apart from the fetus. Indeed, they frequently reported that the fetal body was confining and restrictive, and that they preferred the freedom of out-of-body existence. It was with much reluctance that many of them joined their consciousness with the cellular consciousness of the newborn infant. Whoa. What she is saying in here and what these studies are saying These bodies are sentient, apart from us. There is a difference between what we call consciousness, conscious memory, and cellular consciousness. Cellular consciousness exists in every cell. We don't know where consciousness actually exists. We don't. Some want to say up here, but no. Some want to say in here, no, we don't know. 33% of the participants said they joined the fetus just before or during birth. Boom, baby. Wambach provides these responses. My attachment to the fetus was kind of off and on. It wasn't clear to me when I was actually a part of the fetus. The birth canal experience was very tight, but warm, and after birth, I felt a kind of sterility and a loudness and a brightness, and I felt that the outer world was so unresponsive. I seemed to feel that my soul retained the knowledge that I had attained throughout previous lives after birth. And I've been thinking about this, meditating on it, even dreaming about it, is there a contract between the conscious and the body? That the body doesn't necessarily want to take on the attributes of another body. It wants to have this sanctity of this Trinity, but to be itself, to express itself, to look itself. And that's part of the agreement. Just a thought. I attached to the fetus near the moment when the birthing process begins. I was aware of my mother's feelings, and I realized the profundity of her feelings of motherhood. She was out during birth, and I felt alienated from her because of this. I wasn't attached to the fetus until I heard some voices. I think they were my guides who helped me choose to be born, warned me that the birth would be premature, and they urged me to hurry up, get in there at about 7 months. The following are several excerpts quoted in Wambach's study, specifically the birth canal experience and immediately afterwards. I had a backache and then flexed and felt better. The impressions after birth were that it was very funny because people think you know nothing, but actually you know it all. It was a tight struggle. And my first experience out of the birth canal was a bright light, which made me mad. Like someone switched the light on when you're sleeping. I was angry as soon as I was born, and I felt resentment from the people in the delivering room, but not my mother. Another person wrote, I was amazed by the light. Don't go to the light. Anyway, I was amazed by the light when I emerged, and I'm chilly. I cried. They take me away from mom, and I'm terrified. Then I realize they care and that they will give me back to mom. I was aware that people in the delivery room were caring, even though they didn't understand me. I saw that my spirit was looking over everything. I joined the body moments before the birth. My impressions after birth was that the doctor's slap was not necessary. I felt indignant. I was aware that the doctor was also badly hungover. Welcome to planet Earth. Ay, ay, ay. I was vaguely aware of some thoughts the doctors and nurses had and their feelings. It was not my present ego that accepted this idea, because I felt as an infant, you're not supposed to be doing this. But I was telepathically aware of their feelings. Another wrote, as soon as I emerged, It was very scary and lots of lights. People were handling me in a very unloving way, very cold emotionally. They were doing their job and had good intentions. They were just not aware of their own insensibility and how much I could understand. I was aware that my shoulder was caught and my neck was twisted. After my birth, I was in great pain in my neck and shoulder. I was afraid of falling, and the nurse was bouncing me up and down. I was screaming. My father and the nurse were laughing at me as I screamed. I thought I was dying. After I emerged, the light was very strong and I felt very cold. I had a feeling of being left in space. I felt scared, with nothing to hold on to, out of balance. I felt teary at being so helpless again, even though I had all the intelligence of an adult. I remember my head being out and the rest of my body still in my mother. I was looking up at the ceiling. After birth, I was aware of green hospital gowns and bright lights. I was aware of other people's feelings, and I had the understanding of an adult, not a child. I just listened and observed. My body impressions after birth were of a painful blurring of the spirit and body. I seemed to lose awareness of other people's feelings and of the knowledge I had once I was born. Wambach reflects on the many reports of overwhelming and negative physical sensations that are experienced immediately upon birth and wonders if the intensity felt by the senses when confronted with loud noises, bright lights suggest a quite different environment in which the soul exists before birth. Surprising to me, Wambach wrote, was the frequent report that the soul in the newborn infant feels cut off, diminished, alone compared to the between life state. To be alive in a body is to be alone and unconnected. Perhaps we are alive to learn to break through the screen of the senses, to experience while in a body the transcendent self we truly are. Folks, that is so heavy. 99.9% of the population can't handle that. In an attempt to understand the lessons to be learned from these reports of entering the world through the birth process, particularly through the hospital births that were most common in her research populations. Give me 1 second, folks, and we'll just get that out of there. She gave up, bam, don't do that. Wambach asks, do we need indeed come screaming into the world? Is the origin of many of our feelings of insecurity and happiness the experience of being thrust rudely into the physical world? You know, maybe, this is just my commentary, maybe we got this birthing thing all wrong. They didn't teach us. The gods, the whoever, they didn't teach us. They didn't give us a handbook. They said, screw you. You're on your own. Figure it out. And yet people pray to them all the time. Figure that out, huh? Anyway. And so now we have become so sterile. Modern man has forgotten his soul. That's why the rebellion is taking place. The division of mankind is simply this: those of us who have a soul and those who have no soul. And those who have no soul want us to have no soul. The battle's on, baby. All right, let's go on. And I may go a little bit over because I really want to cover all this in. Wambach acknowledged that she learned more about people from their thoughts and reactions in the psychotherapy and these group experiences than from years of actual psychological research, and wonders My thoughts were of a strange and profound puzzle of where the child we were exists in our here and now. Everything about us changes, often even our names. Where is the essential feeling of being me that continues through all of these physical changes? The truth is, folks, we're still those babies. In fact, you can actually say that from birth, we regress. We don't actually progress. It appears from the birthing process, we know everything, at least everything that we've experienced, everything that we've been taught. Maybe it is just a game. Maybe it's better than being bored. I don't know. I continue. Although David Chamberlain's research did not involve groups, he found that when he induced the theta state, he discovered infant memories and capacities that are generally dismissed by contemporary perceptions of fetuses and newborns. Chamberlain found the most disarming memories are spontaneous birth memories expressed by very young children. Chamberlain's clients' responses closely resemble Wambach's research reports when he states, virtually all babies complain about bright lights, cold rooms, and instruments. The noise, rough contact with their sensitive skin, and nearly every medical routine, including slaps, injections, eye drops, hard scales, being held in midair and handled by strangers. Isn't it any wonder that we come into this world pissed off? I mean, probably every baby in every nursery, every prenatal care would love to go up and slap the adults and say, get your head out of your ass. Then maybe not. He adds that the most universal complaint is being separated from the mother and of the distress and loneliness babies feels in nurseries. Babies are sometimes angry with their mothers for allowing the separation. Chamberlain recommends, now that babies are known to be intelligent, sentient beings, their mental and emotional vulnerability must be reconsidered. And folks, the birthing process in hospitals are as archaic. They're just a step up from being in a cave. I mean, talk about primates. We primates give better birth than humans do. We make it so sterile, we make it so cold, and that's the first impression each new being has coming in. What the hell do you think that's going to do to them? They ain't liking it. Can you imagine? Modern science does not consider a baby as intelligent. They do not consider them to be sentient beings. They don't even consider that they actually have mental or emotional, states. How backward we truly are. The following is one example from Chamberlain's documentations of an adult who remembers his birth and an out-of-body experience. At times, I feel like I'm somewhere in the room witnessing what is going on, and other times, I'm a child and seeing it from that point of view. Chamberlain relates the birth experience of scientist John Lilly, who felt squeezed, trapped, and dying, and then split off to watch from the outside. When his head finally moved out of the birth canal, Lilly moved back into the baby's body. Spontaneous birth memories and induced trance state memories have proven to be very consistent with the stories told by mothers. Chamberlain reports that the long-standing prejudice against the reliability of the infant memory is slowly collapsing and emphatically expresses the following. All the time, we have had memory experts denying birth memory, while new waves of 3-year-olds were continually proving them wrong. Adults hate to be proven wrong by children because our egos. According to Chamberlain, some infants are aware that they are a mind more than a body. Sometimes, when there's an emerging situation during the birth, the infant is aware of what needs to be done and would be able to communicate telepathically, but no one is listening. In cases where the mother might die, an infant may feel that he or she also wants to die in order to remain with her. After sharing multiple examples of birth memories, Chamberlain makes the following point. If birth memories are true, we will have to reassess many of our previous ideas about the nature of babies. Birth reports are charmingly intimate and revealing. They are also revolutionary, confronting us with unimagined intelligence and suggesting that babies deserve a new status, that of conscious persons. I love it. They share with the rest of us a capacity for enriched and expanded consciousness, something we are only lately acknowledging in ourselves. Referring to these as altered states of consciousness or unconscious states, psychology slowly has been introducing us to a range of non-ordinary states where things once thought impossible are indeed possible. Chamberlain describes the 20 to 30-second trances states that babies commonly experience. Like adult self-hypnosis, these states represent creative mental activity and intelligent self-regulation. Chamberlain notes that some psychologists call these bouts of staring, and they usually end with a blink. Bowman introduced the work of Norman Inge, a therapist who integrates his family line of kahuna training with psychotherapy, and notes that trance states and hypnosis, the theta brainwave state, are states of focused attention. According to Inge, evidence of these states in children are wide eyes, a change in breathing, a vacant stare for short periods of time. Some psychologists regarded these states as especially apparent in the brightest and most creative children who stare frequently without interruption. All the times I got my damn knuckles whacked by my teachers because I was a student that, in fact, it was written up. I daydreamed. I didn't want to be here. I can tell you, I just didn't want to be there. And each time they slapped my knuckles, I didn't want to be there even more. Wambach and Chamberlain each discovered that there appears to be communication between the newborn infant and mother, often commencing during the fetal period. Thomas Verney and John Kelly refer to the extrasensory communication between mothers and fetuses as symptomatic communication and report the following incident. Sympathetic, excuse me. The night before, one of my patients had a spontaneous abortion. She shouted herself awake several times, yelling, "I want out! Let me out!" She is convinced that her child was speaking through her. And it's really odd. I guess that some, if they joined the gestation period prior to the birth, maybe these spontaneous abortions are those who've said, no, not going in this time. It would seem like that would be, I mean, I'm sure there are medical and other reasons, but why we would exclude that, I don't know. Verney and Kelly cite an occasion where birth-related memories are the source of a young boy's nightmares during which he screams, curses, and speaks in a foreign language. Evidently, the mother realized that during her son's premature birth, the doctor swore several times out of frustration. And because the infant nearly died, a priest was brought in for last rites spoken in Latin. This is an example of memories associated with birth and also with deep imprinting that takes place during the primal period. And another example, Varney and Kelly correlate births in which the cord is accidentally caught around the baby's neck with later throat-related problems, swallowing difficulties, and speech impediments such as stuttering. I'm one of those persons. My wife will tell you, I had to go for an endoscopy, and even though they put all the drugs they could, that doctor and 3 medical assistants could not get that camera down my throat. My body had taken over. And apparently, as the doctor told my wife, your husband is very, very strong. There's something to this, folks. To emphasize the point that fetuses are aware of their external environment, Verney and Kelly related the experience of Boris Brott. This is an interesting story. Conductor of the Hamilton Philharmonic Symphony, in Ontario, Canada, who states that he was already learning music prior to his birth. Brott told his mother that while conducting certain scores for the first time, he discovered that he knew the cello lines in advance. His mother, a professional cellist, recognized each piece as one she played while she was pregnant with him. In another incident reported by Varney and Kelly, a 2-year-old was found by her mother chanting, "Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out." The mother recognized these words originating in her Lamaze exercise classes during pregnancy. Concerning historical knowledge of prenatal awareness, Verney and Kelly quote the Bible passage. Book of Luke, when Mary saw her cousin Elizabeth, the baby, John the Baptist, leaped for joy when he saw the infant in Mary's womb. And as it says, "For lo, as soon as the voice of your salutation sounded in my ears, the baby in my womb leaped for joy." Jan Ethenwald reports that in the early years of psychotherapy, the mother and child in telepathic relationship were considered a primal unit. But after the birth, there are 2 separate beings who generally remain in intimate communication with each other. The explanations offered were the existence of subliminal sensory cues or unconscious expressive moments. Earthenwald quotes Margaret Mahler, who states, "Communication on this level occurs by mutual cueing, by the mother's selective response to selective cues from the infant's needs and tensions." According to Earthenwald, Mahler describes this as a pattern of circular interaction between the two. In short, she postulates a nonverbal feedback loop to account for their concerted operation. Ethenwald comments, "But these descriptive terms, whether they are borrowed from general system theory, clinical psychology, or psychoanalytic ego theory, are largely metaphorical constructs introduced to cover up a gap in our understanding. It is at this point that the telepathy hypothesis comes to our rescue." David Cheeks, studied in and prenatal psychology, are significant in the context. In an article titled, "Are Telepathy, Clairvoyance, and Hearing Possible in Utero? Suggestive Evidence as Revealed During Hypnotic Age Regression Studies of Prenatal Memory," Cheeks notes the following: "Experience has shown that babies have a tendency to assume responsibility for any distress that their mother suffered during labor." Cheek presented client histories that demonstrate the imprinting of information on the fetus that may emerge later in life. For example, any indication that the mother did not want to be pregnant may be the basis for a difficult relationship between mother and child, because as a fetus, the child felt rejected, even though the mother was fully accepting and positively responsive later in the pregnancy and at the birth. See, that's where I am at with my mother. My mother didn't want me. She didn't want me. She wanted to party. And it's interesting because when you begin to realize these things, it's like a self tune-up inside. You begin to understand some things. You don't go around saying, "Woe is me." You go around saying, "Whoopee." All right. Some of Cheek's conclusions are as following. 1, the human conceptus, I love that, is a feeling and interpreting organism. 2, fetal channels for information are psychic. 3, what the mother perceives and responds to in the environment seems to be mirrored by the conceptus throughout pregnancy. 4, the embryo or fetus will usually recognize that its mother is subconsciously happy to be pregnant if her environment is a happy one, but this engram is outweighed by messages of distress. The conceptus is alarmed by maternal distress. It registers her feelings as signs of rejection, even abandonment. An important area of fetal life is dreaming. Research has confirmed rapid eye movement in the dream states of fetuses. A fetus may dream for at least half of each day. Fred Alan Wolf claims that these extended REM states are preparatory for brain development, perhaps resulting from external stimuli, and describes this stimulation as, get this, blast of neural energy. I mean, this is remarkable that fetuses dream. Kind of makes you kind of think that is the dreaming possible without a spirit or soul to be possessing that? Don't know. Really brings up a lot of questions. REM states are associated with memory processing. Regarding the prenatal memories already described, something beyond simple brain mechanics must be taking place. Although Wolf associates REM state in fetuses with basic brain function, he is also aware of the biological and physiological data that suggests that the brain operates both holographically as an image maker and mechanically as a neural network while awake and while dreaming. Bowman explains that these REM states begin at 20 to 30 weeks in utero and refers to a Tibetan medical text quoted in the Regression Therapy, a handbook professionals by Winifred Blake Lucas. In the 26th week in the womb, the child's awareness becomes very clear, and it can see its former lives and what type of life it had before it took this birth. Wow. We shall continue. Past life memories. Thomas Armstrong shares a dialogue between a grandmother and young granddaughter in which the child asks what will happen after the grandmother dies. The grandmother answers that she will become an angel, and the child then asks whether the grandmother will become a baby again. Carl Jung comments on this dialogue and states that within the child's response lie the seeds of the reincarnation theory, which, as we know, is still alive in millions of human beings. Stanislav Grof research reveals that the biographical realm of the psyche, with its memories of infancy and childhood, is usually first to emerge in altered states. During the holotropic breakwork, a rebirthing technique designed by Goff and his wife Christina, people often adapt the facial features and body posture of young children and may demonstrate some of the actual reflexes of infancy. After decades of research with participants in altered states, Groff has this to say about past lives. In non-ordinary states of consciousness, memories of past lives are woven into a tapestry of experience that includes present life memories around birth, infancy, childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. In his study of reincarnation, Ian Stevenson explains that some of the children he studied were precocious in speaking, both in their ability to articulate in the richness of vocabulary, and some of them have quite startled their parents by the unusual words and phrases which they have uttered at a remarkably young age. Although many children are too young to speak clearly of their memories, Stevenson's discovered that they nevertheless attempt to communicate through mispronounced words and gestures. Stevenson continues, as the child develops fuller powers of speech, say between the ages of 2 and 4 or 5, he nearly always repeats, often many times, what he tried to say earlier, but can at last express more clearly. Stevenson's research reveals that many children talk about past life memories and about the age of 3 and stop talking about them around 5, and the same period during which children speak about birth memories. As a psychiatrist, John Mack developed deeper into the transpersonal realms. He found himself attracted to clients who claimed to have experienced extraterrestrial abductions, most often repeated abductions commenced in childhood. He notes that past lives also emerged during sessions with his clients. Mack states that the following: these reports suggest that individual consciousness may have had its own line of development separate from the body. Referring to his clients' vivid experiences of embodiment and death, he describes their common experience as follows. They speak of a return to or a diffusion into some sort of primal or universal creative consciousness or source, and then a later rebirth through a woman's womb into a new embodiment on earth. Another perspective offered by Mack is suggested by Rupert Sheldrake. Mack writes, as biologist Rupert Sheldrake has suggested, it is possible that there exists a kind of eternal collective memory, Akashic record, on which we all may draw. One might, Sheldrake suggests, tune in to particular people in the past who are now dead, and through morphic resonance, pick up memories of past lives. This does not prove, he says, that you were that person. So interesting. Chamberlain learned from his experience with past life memories that these were not merely abstractions. Some children insist on dressing according to the gender they remember from a past life. One past life memory involves a client who remembers being very disturbed at birth when she realizes she is a baby and not the princess of a previous lifetime. She is further distressed because she thinks her parents must know who she is, since they named her Sarah, meaning princess, but she does not understand how they seem to have forgotten. Sucks. Bowman, in her collection of case histories of the spontaneous reincarnational memories of children, including her own 2 children, she reviews examples from the extensive work of Ian Stevenson and other past life researchers. Bowman reports that personal experiences with young children who speak about previous lifetimes have changed the worldviews of family members and the perspectives of several psychiatrists, psychologists, and therapists. Children are often spontaneously induced into trance or hypnotic states, theta brainwave states, while riding in a car, swaying back and forth in a rocking chair or a swing, or during any activity that engages the right brain hemisphere, such as artwork, singing, and playing make-believe. Past life therapists who work with children include drawing in their clinical technique. David Bowman's research, she came up upon a number of children who described hovering over their future mother and father before birth. Sometimes the mother is known from a past life. A young child may recognize a person in this lifetime who was known in a past life and may ask that person if he or she remembers the child while proceeding to tell the story of a past time. Bowman states that this can have a powerful effect on an adult, activating profound emotions. Children may describe the location of places they knew in a past life that may be verified later. Smells, taste, and something as simple as a mother wearing an apron may act as a trigger, enabling a past life memory to surface. Bowman shares a story about a young child watching her apron-clad mother baking in the kitchen. The 2-year-old child comments, "My black mother used to wear an apron too." That one is deep. We are a soul tribe. A child may retain a talent from a previous life and draw, paint, perform music, or have an aptitude for science or mathematics far beyond their development level, the so-called precocious, gifted, and genius child. Bowman suggests that these are descriptive words commonly used to cover over any real explanation for their abilities. The matter-of-fact tone within which the child speaks is one of the most outstanding features of this phenomenon. Bowman reports a story of a 3-year-old who saw an image of Abe Lincoln during a television program. The tone of voice of the child changed immediately, and the father described the following. It was suddenly like talking to a grown-up. The way he spoke was like a little man relating his own experience. It wasn't that his voice deepened, it was the way he said it. He was giving me a factual account of his experience as a soldier. Bowman shares the following quote from Head and Cranston concerning the experience with xenoglossary. To the mystification of Dr. Marshall McDuffie, a prominent New York physician, and his wife, Wilma, we'll just say it that way, their twin baby boys were found to be conversing amongst themselves in some unknown vernacular. The children were eventually taken to the foreign language department of Columbia University, but none of the professors present could identify their speech. However, a professor of ancient languages happened to pass by and was amazed to discover that the babies were speaking Aramaic, the language spoken by the Christ. A child's phobia may relate to a violent death in a previous lifetime. Bowman notes, this conforms to the now familiar pattern observed by all past life therapists and by Dr. Stevenson. Traumatic deaths are usually at the root of otherwise unexplainable phobias. Bowman continues, children may resist eating foods that remind them of that experience, cry when they hear a particular foreign language, or express disgust for a culture or time in history. As an example, Bowman offers a story she quotes from Johann Gershom titled Mary and the Bombs. Mary was born in the Midwest. During the day, she was a normal, happy baby, but at night she screamed in terror. As soon as she could talk, she described vivid nightmares of being bombed, and she was absolutely terrified of sirens. Once, while Mary was walking home from school, a siren went off. She started screaming and ran into the street, stopped a passing car, and shouted, "We're going to be bombed! We're going to be bombed!" While still a little girl, she had visions of herself as a young woman, very gaunt, wide-eyed, and frightened, asking, "Why? Why? How can this be?" Mary, now an adult in her middle age, has never known hunger in this life, yet she has a deep fear of starving to death. Her parents always brushed off her weird behavior as something she had heard on the radio, but Mary always knew it was something more. She puzzled all her life about what was going on, what was wrong with her, until years later, while traveling by train through Germany, she had a flashback. She finally saw that she had died in the Holocaust, and her nightmares and weird behavior suddenly made perfect sense. Well, we're going to stop right there because I can see I have really gone over. We'll pick this back up most likely on Wednesday. I hope you all enjoyed this. You got to admit that this is wild. That's all I can say. This is wild. Excuse me. So, yeah. As he's saying, okay. I had two different pictures side by side, so it's confusing. Anyway, I think that this is, a fabulous study. We're going to continue into chapters 4 because, again, I do believe it will trigger in some people, who knows how many people. I can now see my birth. I have described it. I knew the hospital I was at. I described the room, the birthing room. And the weird thing about it is that my wife worked at that hospital, and that's exactly what the rooms look like. So Hey, David Barry, good to see you. Um, I'm glad that I can see their response in the chat room. This is phenomenal study. It really is. It's one of the most exciting theses I have read, and it shows clearly, folks, there is something going on. Imagine if we, as a species, break the veil. Hear me out on this. It is a veil. But I believe that that veil has been put up in recent times. Uh, yeah, Hal, you're right. Stop spanking my ass when I got born. But think about it. Imagine if more and more of us actually got back to the pre-fetal state. That's my goal. I know I've been there. I know that I have seen things. It's starting to make sense. So much of this is starting to make sense. And it's great therapy. It is. You really begin to see how wonderfully we were created. And it's not these bodies. These bodies have its own covenant, its own sentience. I'm talking about that within us. We are, folks, I don't think we know what we are. But I think the day is coming. And I think when we do, the archons, they're going to be running with their tails tucked between their legs. That's all I got to say. All right, folks, 11:11, 1:11:11. All right, good time to go. All right, see you tomorrow with Miss Trina. We're going to pick this up. Cellular memory, conscious memory. Wow. You're welcome, Deborah Truex. Thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed this. Re-listen to it. If you want the PDF, I'll be more than happy to give it to you. And we will continue. This is how we grow, folks. We're here for a reason. We're here for a purpose. This group that has bonded to each other, there's a purpose. And I think we're getting closer and closer to seeing that. All right. Much favor to you. Love you very much. Be kind to one another. Be kind to yourself. And we will. Hey, Nina, good to see you. All right, everybody. Thank you, Cajun Queen. Lois, much love. All right, everyone.